You're listening to Wild Things and Wild Places, a Muley Fanatic Foundation podcast that aims to discuss issues and efforts related to the Muley Fanatic Foundation mission, the conservation of mule deer, furthering the sport of hunting, and sound wildlife management.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley fanatic.
It's time for Wild Things and Wild Places. And here's your guide, Joshua Corsi.
And welcome to another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. Joining me today is today's guest. I've got Cari Goss, who is the founder, designer, proprietor, you name it, with Azyre. Have you ever heard of Azyre? You're about to learn a lot more about Azyre, and I think you'll be spreading the word. Welcome, Cari.
Hi, how are you doing, Josh?
I am doing fantastic. I am so excited about this episode, and I will tell you up front, a little self-serving. As a dad of two daughters, this was a conversation I was very excited to have because I have lived with this. Both of my daughters are, of course, adults. One's 27, one's 22. And so I have lived with this all of my life about making and dealing with hunting gear that is just designed for a male-dominated industry to make it work for a female body. And Azyre takes that to a whole new level. And I'm assuming that's probably a lot of what inspired you to try to develop a line that was geared specifically towards women. But I want you to tell the story because it's a great story. So let's start at the beginning.
Perfect. So Azyre was born because I was obviously hunting since I was young and with my dad. So I love the fact that you have two daughters and you probably took them hunting. Growing up, you wore a little bit of different, all sorts of things. And as time progressed, as I got into my 20s and 30s, then the camo line came out and I absolutely loved just patterns of the camo. So I tried a little bit of every kind of brand that you can think of. And every brand I want to support, every brand, and I want every brand to be successful. But over the years and as I got older and on a sheep hunt, 17-day sheep hunt, stone sheep in British Columbia, I was out and about in a lot of rugged terrain, weather, cold, and sometimes a little bit of warm. And that 17-day sheep hunt afterwards, I was telling my husband, I said, I know that I could build a pattern that would be functionable for the elements and that would still look great on women. And I know that there's something that we need with the fit and the function and the durability. And why can't we look good at the same time? And
That's said, important, right?
So true. And he says, how are you going to do that? And I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to pray about it. And God's already giving me that passion and he is going to get that flame. And when that flame goes, I know he'll send people and it will just happen. And that's exactly really what started Azyre and that fire. And here we are today with it full launched and traveling all over the place and seeing women, their reaction. Absolutely love it. They love it just as much as me. So I feel very, very blessed.
Cari, a little background. You and your husband, Leo, you live in Sheridan, Wyoming?
Yes, we do. We live in Wyoming. We're the Bighorn Mountains right up against them. And there's obviously some hills and flats. Wyoming is beautiful in every part of it. Where you are is
beautiful landscape.
We love to mule deer hunt. So obviously that's where I started. I didn't always sheep hunt until I got older. And whenever we would get a tag, we would go out and area mule deer. And sometimes we'd get an elk tag. And I really didn't get very many antelope tags. So we primarily, I guess you could say, is for sure a mule deer hunter. And anyone knows my husband, Leo Goss, he is really a mule deer fanatic. And it's funny because is muley fanatic. So my husband definitely is. And he has been blessed to harvest some amazing, beautiful animals that are just absolutely incredibly, I don't really 100% know each score, but they're just huge. I'm sure you probably have seen a few of those, Josh.
I have, yeah. He has definitely been blessed. There's no doubt about it. He's had a great opportunity to harvest some majestic mule deer. There's no doubt. And yeah, no, that reputation precedes him.
And he's definitely true on really the spotting and stalking. And he taught me how to be a really good hunter. So I feel since we've been together over 25 years and we've hunted so much together out in the elements, and he really showed me how to spot and stalk and be pretty stealthy and just literally learn the landscape and watch the animals. And not only that, but we're big into conservation with our ranches, is keeping the wildlife and keeping them up and not where you would hunt them too much. And so basically sometimes the winters are hard and you got to let them go and you got to let them build back up for 2 to 3 years. And I feel like that's a huge part of it. So we're very blessed to be able to do that with our ranches and then have the deer grow up and then be able to go out and then try to find them and hope it all works out for the best and then use the meat. And then we get to spread the meat with us and with our friends and with family. And so it's really a whole thing, right? It's really about family.
Yeah. When you talk about the hunting heritage and the sportsmen and sportswomen that participate within those activities, it is truly a family. It's a family way of life. In regards to the gear Azyre itself, when the notion of you having that conversation with Leo about, I think we can do this, I think we can develop something that is specifically designed for women, and I think this could really take off. That sounds like it. When you look back now, of course, it's been many years in the making. It didn't just happen overnight. Knowing a little bit about the story, and I want you to share it with others because I think that this really is a testament to the time, the equity, and just the thoughtfulness that went into not only the patterns, but the fit, the material, the sourcing of such materials, the distribution. There are a lot of moving parts when you decide you want to essentially develop from no prior product. You're going to develop a product and multiple products at that, different sizing and sourcing of the different manufacturers that can help provide and assist with the creation of such. Let's start with the name, Cari. Where did the name Azyre come from?
So Azyre is a totally made up name. And when I first wanted to create the name with the logo, I thought of Artemis, which is the goddess of the hunt, the goddess of the wilderness, and a woman that loves the outdoors. And I love A because I feel like A is a very strong letter. And so when I wrote it all out, I thought actually it was going to be Artemis. And then I started to work with my attorney because you have to file the paperwork for a trademark, U.S. trademark. And I wanted to do a worldwide trademark. And so I remember when I was drawing it out on my note tablet, because as I was creating Azyre, I had a note tablet I carried with me everywhere. So I would sit there and research as much as I could, and then I would write down my ideas and all my drawings of each piece of what I felt we needed to start for women, which was base layers to waterproof insulated. And he called me, my attorney, when I was in that process with doing the name, and I was on my other business because I have a trucking company and I was working in my other company. And then I have a ranch and we were also calving. I was doing a few little things and he called me right around 5:00. Cari, I know you really wanted this name, but I just wanted to let you know that as I was starting to file the paperwork, it's already been used and taken. And so you can't use it. And I'm like, oh no, I was like a little discouraged actually. And I said, so what are your thoughts? He said, can you just think of a name that's made up, like completely that means nothing? I said, oh, you mean like Nike, Exxon? He's like, yeah, like that. I'm like, okay. So my husband calls and says, Cari, I need you to hurry and come home after the trucking company. And because we have a cow, the heifer that's going to calve and I might need your help. So I said, okay. So I'm hurrying from the trucking company, 5 minutes to go home. And I knew I had to change out of my clothes into some gear. And on that way, I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it to God like I did everything else when I started this. And I know he's going to help me and something's just going to come out of it. And so I came home, changed in my gear. I sat down on my computer for just a second and I'm like, I love the name A. So I typed in A on Google. And then I decided, you know what? I had a friend named Azyre when I was growing up and I love her name. So I put in Z. And it automatically popped up IR, and I thought, what's this? And so I looked at what is the meaning with AZIR. It said this meaning about a strong woman that's creative and bold and just is driven and makes things happen. And I thought, that's me. Perfect. And I thought it was pronounced Azyre. So I'm like, that's perfect. AZIR. So I ran over to the barn and we were tending to the cow and then we had to check the other cows. And so afterwards, Leo's like, how'd it go? And I told him about what happened. And I said, but I just did this really quick on the way home. And my niece's fiance, or I think, yeah, it was a fiance, they were going to get married, came over and said, do you guys need help? Because he heard that we were doing stuff with the cows. And we said no. And so we got it all taken care of. And he's like, so how's your apparel going, Cari? And I said, and I told him the story, but I said, here's what happened. And I'm going to name it AZIR. called Azyre. And he's, Cari, I don't think it's pronounced that way. I think that's Azyre. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like that name. So I went through the cows. I came back to the house. And later that night, a friend called and I was talking to him and he was asking me about the apparel. And I told him, and he's like, you wanted to sound like Azyre, just as I was writing this down as he was saying this. He goes, just take out the I, put in a Y, and add an E at the end. And it's Azyre. And I'm like, really? That's it. I literally wrote it and I knew immediately. I loved the spelling of it and the strength that I just saw of those letters. And it meant nothing. And I'm like, that's perfect. So that's how Azyre was born.
Oh, that's awesome, Cari. That's a great story. From there, you took a great name that has so many meanings to you and what it represents and the boldness and the ability to lead and just trudge ahead. When you start talking about the development of product, did you have the one particular product that initially was, we got to make sure we get this right first? Was that a base layer? Was that an insulated layer or rain gear? Was it pants? Was it a top? Was it a combination of everything under the sun? Obviously, you can't come out with just a huge launch of 16 different lines. Where was the impetus to where you wanted to start that?
So my first forethought is I felt like I wanted the best materials that felt the best. So when I ended up finding my designers and we ended up going to the sources of the actual places that have the materials and going to meetings with them over and over, I would go to them and I would say, with my designers, I'd had at least 2 designers with me at all times. And I would say, I want the best materials for what would work for odor wicking on my base layers. And then I want the best materials that would work for my rain gear, my best layers that would work for my grid fleece. And then I wanted the best layers that would work for my insulation pieces. And I said, I want the best that you have. And I didn't even, basically, that's how I started, is they would bring me all the best that they felt was the best. Before I even give it to my designers, then I would touch it. And everything was like that. It had to be the most soft feel and the best feel to the finger touch for me first. If that passed that test, then it would go to both designers, and both designers would have to inspect the actual technical part. Like one of my designers was in a master textile. And then the other designer, they've all been in the industry for over 20 years. We had it laid out from base layers to the mid-grade to insulation pieces to the waterproof pieces. And then they would look at it, inspect it with their experience and say, yes, this would hold up to it, or no, this wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like to each piece. So we basically started that way. It was never like, give me all of them and let me look at them. I'm like, I want the top end line of it. And I didn't even talk about price. I just wanted the top end. And so that's how that started for the actual materials.
Did you look at multiple different patterns? Azyre has a very unique pattern. It's very brand oriented. When you see it, you know what it is, much like many of the other popular brands within the industry. But how many different patterns were presented to you as options? Or did you take a little bit from some of them and tweak them to come up ultimately, which became the Azyre product brand? But walk me through
that's
that.
A great question.
Yeah.
Great question, Josh. So basically, I was out on my deck one evening, and as I had a vision, and whenever I struggle with anything, I always give everything to God. And I ask him, okay, God, help me through whatever. And I was actually outside on my deck looking at the Bighorn Mountains, and I remember there was a bunch of clouds. And it was like the breakup, and they were so beautiful. It looked like a pattern actually in the clouds. And it was absolutely just one of those when the sun was going to get ready to go down and you could see the clouds in the sunset. And I was so moved by it. I went inside and I grabbed my note tablet and I just started drawing patterns on the note tablet. And then I eventually, during that process of that time, every chance I had, I would get like these pencils of different colors. And then I started filling them in with those drawings that I had. And then I ended up reaching out to a actual pattern maker because obviously there is what they have to have in their computers and the graphics and the designs. So she ended up being in Austin, Texas. So I flew down to Austin, Texas, and I had all my note tablets and I had my drawings and I had my visions that I was been laying out, and we met and we spent days together and working on just what she could see from my drawings and then what I had. And we just sit there and talk about everything. And so it started from there. And from there, that was really one of the most hardest to do of the apparel, because to create a pattern that's functional with the elements and then yet looks great, and then to get the right size and how it fits, it ended up being where we had samples. I still have boxes of hundreds of samples. Like I used to have it all over my living room, all over my tables, all over my couches. And when I felt like I was getting close to a pattern that I liked and what I felt like was great, I'd bring in women and we would just I'd walk them through and I'd just lay out the patterns, and I wouldn't tell them nothing. I would just ask them, do you see any that you like? And I'm working on some patterns for my new line, and I just wanted some ideas. And it was funny that every time I would do it, the closer I would get, which I would be changing, it would took about almost a full year. It kept getting to the pattern that ended up being where Azyre is. And women were drawn to it. Not only women, but what I was surprised is when men would come over, men were drawn to it as much, which that's ended up being now. Every show I go, men keep saying, when are you building for men? I'm like, I think you guys have enough of your own brands to choose from. So sorry, I'm not planning that.
Can you really have enough? That's funny because my wife will be like, every time somebody comes out with something new, it's you always have to. We have this conversation about look at this, look at this. I think if you really love just the outdoors, I think inevitably when something new comes out, it grabs your attention, and yeah, I get it, I understand. I'm curious on the line of the products that you currently offer, and of course your business. When did it launch and first become public, Cari?
So it was January 2020 at Wild Sheep Show in Reno, Nevada is when I first launched. Okay,
that's what I thought. It was either late 19 or early 2020, and where I was going with that is shortly after the launch, you were faced with the challenges that everybody faced with the pandemic, and I'm sure that created some distribution opportunities that you maybe had already thought were easy to overcome, and now you're littered with challenges, and then the opportunity to be in front of people and shows and vendor trade shows, expos. I'm sure that kind of was a little bit of a setback that you had to figure out how to overcome, I'm imagining.
Yes, but I always look at when there's obstacles or anything that comes my way, I always rely on my faith and I just give it to God, and I always know that there's a reason. So I really trust in Him. With that, when that happened, I made it to Wild Sheep Show in Reno, Nevada, and then I went to the Hunting Expo in Salt Lake, and I had 2 shows, and that one was in January and one was in February, and then March is obviously everything shut down, and then it fast forward until the show started opening up in January of 2022. And since I really don't do marketing besides I just go up to the shows and I show up and I just give it to God, and then He just brings people and it just happens. I just trusted Him at that point. And I also looked at it as a business point that I started reordering inventory. And I was talking to my husband. I said, if this is all really happening, it's either going to probably, who knows, if everybody's no longer here, or we're going to have a shortage of supplies is what I felt was going to happen. So when everybody was canceling, which I just had my whole inventory, then I just started reordering inventory. I thought eventually it's going to open up and everybody's going to have a chance to get it. So I took that time to reorder and start working on my new pieces that I had been testing, because when I did my apparel, I tested it and went through so many protos for 3 years, because I told my husband, I said, I'm not going to launch it until every piece is to the best it could be, because I don't want to have returns, and I want women to get the best and use it and utilize it when they get it immediately for years. And so that's how it worked. And it gave me the advantage to keep working and start being creative. Plus, I feel like it gave us all time to be with our families, and it gave us all time to reflect on the importance of God, relying on one another, loving one another, and also learning how to really stay at home and cook. And you could save a lot of money by eating at home with your family.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely been, in light of so much heartache and tragedy that many experience, there certainly has been some positive outcomes that have come from just how the world operates now, and particularly in the business world. COVID, despite all of those consequences, there has been some benefits. Yeah, it sounds like you navigated those waters. It's very obvious that you put strong emphasis on your faith, and I applaud you for that. That's very near and dear for me, is that without that, I don't know how one exists, to be quite frank. Specific to your products, how many lines do you now offer, and what are available to folks?
So basically, I have from base layers, which I call my vision base layers, which are my tops and my leggings. And those are odor wicking, and they have the anti-stick polygene on them finished, and they're super soft with their poly and spandex. So I start there, and then I go to my grid fleece sweaters, which is my next layer, which is a amazing grid fleece, which all my apparel is tailored a little longer on the tops. All the tops, jackets, everything is tailored longer to cover down your bum, I call it, because I want to keep us warm. So it has a little bit more materials. And then I do have a lifestyle piece that I felt very important for women to have, and it was a complicated piece, which was the concealed carry vest. And I feel like women should, either if you're hunting or whatever, if they want to pack a pistol or a laser or a taser or a pepper spray, is what I devised it for. So it's a diversified one. Some people don't want to pack a pistol, and I'm totally fine with it. Then if they want to pack pepper spray or a laser or whatever, or a taser, anything that they would want to do. And I always think of, like, when I'm out and about, you might run into a rattlesnake, right? Or something that you feel like that could be threatening you in some way. So I did that piece, which is lightly insulated, but it also is, you can just wear it anywhere. And then my insulated pieces, which I call Believe. And those are my concealed carry and my hybrid and my down 800 fill jacket. My hybrid was also a very complicated piece because it's asymmetrical with 3 different type of materials that are form-fitting and yet so warm and cozy. I call them my go-to bomb because you can literally wear them all year around, and all of North America is where I wear them, come from Canada all the way to Mexico. And then I have my waterproof insulated and uninsulated 3-layer jacket that has multiple pockets and longer for your arms to go around. And then I do have my pants and my leggings, which are super soft leggings that have high waist, and they have a built-in pocket in the back. So you could put your phone, or a lot of people run with them. And then I have my mid-weight hiking pants that I should have called them my tough-ass pants, because they are so tough and durable with the stretch and the material. They're almost water repellent. They're water resistant. And they have 4 big deep pockets and built-in snap gaiters to tighten around your boots, and with a built-in belt, so you don't lose it. The belt is very hard to get off. I always tell people, if you get that belt out, you are going to have a hard time getting it back in. And it's just one of those things that you're always like, where's my belt? So I decided to put it into that feature. And then I have my waterproof insulated pants, fully zip up from the bottom to go all the way up to your hips, so you could easily get them on with your boots, or you can unzip them all the way to vent. And they also have pockets and built-in gaiters that tighten around your boot. So I tried to do the pieces that you would need and have everything in it, instead of trying to find an accessory and trying to figure out and remember what you did with it. And then my accessory pieces are my ponytail hat that has 2 different options for a high ponytail or a low ponytail, because women have a lot of hair sometimes and we like it off of our neck when we're out and about. And then I have earbands that are super soft fleece, mid-grade fleece, to cover over your hat, or you could just wear it on your head. And then I have my neck gaiter, which I called it my BFF, because sometimes that BFF is like a best friend forever when you can put it up over your face, keep it on your neck, and it's just the super soft base layer feel to it. And if you're really cold, I decided to do a beanie with palms or without, that are cashmere lined so that it doesn't itch your head like sometimes wool does, or nylon, and it's a nylon wool on the outside for extra warmth. So they're super, super warm and super stylish.
What a great product line, Cari. What stands out to me is certainly you were going into this with the an objective of being able to create a very high performance, active piece of gear, not really clothing, but really essentially gear, but then also wanted to make it fashionable and make it desirable in that regard. I think you've knocked it out of the park. I will tell you, this weekend at an event in Lander, a guy by the name Shane Carlson and his wife Paula, they're from Heber City, Utah. We were visiting about gear, and Shane is a Kuiu guy, and we were talking about that, but his wife had chimed in saying that she was glad to see Kuiu offering some gear specific to women. But she did say, she wanted me to pass this along to you. It was funny. She brought it up, and then I said, oh, that's funny. I'm going to be visiting with Cari on Monday. We're going to do a podcast talking about Azyre. And she had brought up that she said, I like the Kuiu stuff that they have added, but she said, I am a huge fan of the Azyre pants. She is an educator there in Heber City, Utah. She said, if you get a chance and when you're visiting with Cari, ask her if she can expand the solid color lines, because she has, I think, they must be the Achieve hiking pants. Is that right? You offer them in a solid green?
Yes. That's
okay. All right. Because she said not only does she wear those to work, but 3 of her colleagues that work at the school that she works at have now also taken that on, and they have become way beyond just the realm of we're going to wear these in the field. No, these are everyday wear pants because they are that darn comfortable. Her quote, exactly.
I appreciate that. And I'm so glad, number one, she's part of Azyre team, because Azyre team is growing, and so many wonderful women that I have met. And yes, Azyre definitely is going to where I just thought it was going to end up being in the outdoor hunting world, but it has gone to skiing. It's gone to rodeos. It's gone to moms that come up and tell me, I'm a soccer mom and I'm always outdoors with my kids, and your stuff has literally saved my life. That's what they tell me.
Oh, that's
by watching my kids when it's freezing and it's cold and rainy, and yet I'm out there and not trying to go back to my car.
Very cool. Cari, I know in just respect of time, we've already visited for a half hour on this, and I do want to, there are a couple of other things I want to get to before we close. I guess first and foremost, on the topic of talking about gear, new developments, something new that folks can look forward to. Could I tell Paula there is an expanded line maybe of other solid colors becoming available, or what's new? What's up? What's in the future?
So it's funny because I know brands are really particular about it, but I get excited. So I love to talk about it. And Paula is one of the ones that thousands of people have told me over and over, yes to the answer of her question, because it is definitely, it's actually even in a lot of people in the medical field tell me they wear it because it's just so comfortable where it is. So it's amazing where it's definitely taking into a lifestyle pieces. And when I launched, I came out with solids as my camo. So I do have a lot of options with my solids. And my new piece that is coming out, she is going to absolutely love. I have been testing it and working on the protos for 2 years now, and it's in the making. So I can't exactly say when it will be done because it has to be perfect, but it is going to be solids. And yes, it is going to be intertwined in a wonderful way to wear it, that they can wear it anywhere.
Hey, I guess I should have touched on this before we got too far into the product line, but maybe it's best served that we talk about it now since we've covered so many of the different options and the great products that are being offered by Azyre. You are a consumer direct business, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Best way and really only way folks can get your product is whether they're attending a show or to buy directly online. And I am going to use this opportunity to give a plug because we have been strategic in timing this opportunity for this podcast to be prior to Mule Deer Days. You will be in Southwest Wyoming with your full trailer, your full product line at Mule Deer Days, May 2nd through the 4th in Rock Springs. Just want to get that out there. But if you can't make it, which would be a shame, but if you can't, AzyreGear.com, correct?
That is correct. And I am really excited about coming and bringing the trailer in. We are going to be bringing some pretty big gear with us.
Okay, we got to make sure you get that. All right. And last but not least, Cari, I do want to take this opportunity because I do believe that this is a very key component of what you're doing. But I do want you to touch and share with other listeners about the Azyre Evangelist program because I think it's fascinating. I think it's certainly been a key instrument of your success because of your faith. And I do want you to share the details of that, please.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So when I launched, and I don't really do marketing, I think I talked about that earlier, is the women that are buying my stuff they just kept coming back. And when I take 6 to 8 people at the shows, and I noticed and we were so busy we couldn't help them. And the customers that were coming back wanting to buy different colors or different products, and they were waiting, and they literally started selling to people because we are so busy at every event. I just was like thinking about something. And as I was on a hunt and I was driving back, and I thought, all these women are just spreading the word because it is such a wonderful product, all of them. And they love Azyre and they're part of Azyre team. I thought, how can I do something to get them included? And Azyre is so big at every show. I always start a prayer before we go to the show and the show starts. And I gather new or people I know, and we do a circle and we all get together and we just give God thanks and give God thanks to give us strength through the day and show a light and share his love to all those, because really it is such an important part. And I thought, these women are doing it for me. Why don't I just start an Azyre Evangelist program that's tied to my triangle, which is part of my brand, and I'll bring it up to the women that I know that are just actively going and selling it for me, and they can do a biblical quote or they can do their name, and I will give them a discount to give to their friends, and then they get in return involved in the program. And in over a year, that within 12 to 13 months, the top person that sells, when the people they give that code to, their friends, and it goes into my system, I keep track of it, then I'm going to go take them and do something with it, which this year we're just getting ready to announce the gal that was a top person. And I'm going to be taking her on an aoudad hunt in Texas next week. And she's a mother of 3 that just had a baby 3 months ago. So the whole family's coming, and my husband Leo's coming with me, and we're all going to do it together. And just me and her are going to go hunting and have a great time. So it's basically that's kind of the whole program. And then the end result, which I don't know what's going to happen next year or where we're going to go, but somebody's going to go and we're going to do something great.
That's going to be incredible to be able to have that experience next week. If someone was listening to that and felt inspired to say, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about that, or I want to be a part of that, is that information available on the website?
I haven't really done it on the website because it's been pretty much in person. But if they do, they could definitely reach out through Instagram or Facebook, or they can go to contact, like CONTACT at AzyreGear.com and direct message us, and then we can then help them through the process and reach out to them, and love for them to be a part of it as if they want to join. And it's just such a great thing, and it's really God. So I have to give all the glory to him and all my success I've had with Azyre, and he's my boss. I just go and people come and we just have a great time, and women love each other, and I'm just so blessed that my team is growing bigger and bigger every time I turn around.
Cari, I guess in closing, because I think that's very important that you are able to recognize that this is a team effort. I think that speaks volumes of you and your own character, that this is bigger than you, and there are many that have been involved in helping move this movement forward with Azyre. How many folks are on the staff? This is a great opportunity, a clarion call, if anything, for you to be able to just give credit to those that are helping carry this forward.
Like when you say that, it's funny because a lot of them have other jobs, and so they help me through it. When I feel like the people, it's so big and it's all the customers, right? It's that the day to day, so I can't really say it's just a few, because I feel like it's so much bigger than that, Josh. And that's not directly answering your question.
Oh no,
but I'm the one.
I think it's great.
Like, yeah. So it's to give. There's just so many, and everywhere I go. So I guess I feel like everyone that has my stuff and loves it and is attached to it and utilizes it, they're part of the team. So it's thousands. It's all over the world. Like I get pictures all over the world. Like people buy it at the shows, and people that are from other countries, and they take it all over. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Cari, congratulations on what has certainly been a very successful endeavor on your part, a dream come true. Something that is more than just providing quality, high-performance gear in the field, but truly an inspiration and a brand that represents so much more than the mud, the blood, and the sweat and tears that those elements of gear are able to withstand. It's way more than that. And I just appreciate the time that you've had this morning to be able to share your story, and I'm excited to be able to meet you in person at the Mule Deer Days event coming up May 2nd through 4th, and for you to have your entire lineup there in the trailer and your husband's deer. Excited to see that as well. Last year's Colorado Governor's Tag deer be there?
Yes, he had two because he got one with a muzzleloader tag and then one with a rifle because he ended up getting it with the muzzleloader. They ended up getting two. So he had two off of that tag. And yes, both of them will be there. One's on a pedestal and one is a life-size.
The life-size,
mounted.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those. Karen,
I'm excited about coming to. Thank you for letting me be involved with the organization and coming to this event because I'm going to be bringing some team and we're going to have a great time. That's something great's going to happen when we're there. I just know it. I have no doubt.
Yeah, me neither. No doubt at all. All right. Cari Goss with Azyre. Again, check them out online. Again, a consumer direct business. I applaud that effort, much like Kuyu or Maven. I think when you can be consumer direct like that and you can deal directly with the designer, the owner, the founder, you cut out that middleman, and you really do. There is great value in being able to be a consumer direct business for being able to offer high quality products directly to the consumer. AzyreGear.com. Again, AZYRE gear.com. Cari Goss, thank you for your time.
And that wraps up another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. But remember, the journey doesn't end here. Make sure you never miss out by subscribing. Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, streaming us on our website, or following us on social media, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more wild episodes.
Everybody knows I'm a muley fanatic.